I trust that you had a good Christmas holiday, and it appears that some of you are like our family and you had Christmas after Christmas Day. And so we have a lot of visitors this morning, and we're grateful for all of you. I think I see Dustin Driscoll back there, and Dustin and I worked together in Lubbock for a lot of years, and we're glad you're here. And did y'all catch that Ron is preaching over at Colony? I'm going to have to drive by and check. I figure he's home in mourning over that football game last night. So we're glad to have all of you here. This is as you well know, the last Sunday of 2019. And that means that this Wednesday we will encounter the first day of 2020, and next Sunday, the first Sunday of 2020. And I hope each of you has a blessed New Year's Day. And even more than that, I hope that we have each of us a blessed 2020. Over the last 7 or 8 years, there have been many things written, especially in the field of business and leadership, many things written on the power and the influence of authenticity. Authentic living. We call it being genuine, we call it being real, we call it being original. In contrast to saying that something is kind of pretentious, or it's pretending, or it's even fake. I've noticed that young people, especially in their 20s and early 30s, they're really intent on trying to decide if someone is real. And so they look at celebrities even, like in Washington, and celebrities in Hollywood, and celebrities in sports, and they're looking to see, are these people genuine? Are they real? Are they authentic? And we know from the world of products, some company can make a product, it's the original product. And before very long, other companies come along and they make aftermarkets, make it look like the same thing. Or in the industry, they call it knockoffs. And some of those are very, very good, but they're not the original. They're not the original. And sometimes they're not nearly as good as the original. Our grandsons are here this morning, and they've been getting more and more into the world of collecting coins and gold and silver. And one of the first things they had to learn was, how can you tell? How can you tell if it's the real thing? Because there are all kinds of things out there that aren't the real thing, and if you buy one of those, it has much less value to it, so you look for the original. And you're wondering, well, why are you starting like that? Why are you saying all that? Well, we've been studying for the last 6 months on Sunday mornings in the book of James. I know you thought I was finished, but this last Sunday of the year, maybe one more time. If I were going to rename the book of James, if I were given that task to rename the book of James, I think I would name the book something like Authentic Christianity. Or maybe I would call it Authentic Christian Living, being real. Because what we have seen in that book is, if you are intentionally living for Christ, you encounter troubles and you encounter them with the right attitude. And if you're intently living, if it's the original, if it's the real thing, if it's authentic, then you not only hear, but you put what you hear into practice. And then you look out at other people and you see people who have misfortune, and you're willing to reach out and do something about it. And authentic Christian living, intentional Christian living, well aware of the power of the tongue, understands what James is talking about when he says the tongue is full of deadly poison. It's like a raging fire. An intentional, authentic Christian living, it has something to do with understanding the battle that's going on inside of us between the wisdom of this world and the wisdom of heaven. And the wisdom of this world is selfishness that leads to jealousy, leads to all kinds of chaos. Authentic Christian living. But there are these two verses at the very end of the book of James. James just abruptly cuts this book off. And he uses these two verses. And I kept finding myself wondering, thinking about what is he trying to really say? Because he begins like this. If any one of you wanders from the truth, if any one of us wanders from the truth. Maybe there's a distinction here between wandering. The writer of the book of Hebrews will use the word drifting from the truth. Maybe there's a distinction between that concept and just turning my back on it. Just turning my back completely. What do you think about when you think about something drifting? Always I get this picture in my mind of a boat tied to a dock. Somehow it comes loose. And though the waves are small, they're constantly moving. And I see that boat just kind of moving out a bit and a bit more and a bit more. And before long, it's a long ways out there. Maybe you even lose sight of it. Or we live in this part of the world right here in cattle country. And if any of you in this audience has ever owned cattle, you have most certainly had the experience of one getting out of the pasture where it belongs. And that calf or that bull or that cow gets out and it's got new territory to eat. And they eat a little bit and they walk a little bit and they eat a little bit and they walk a bit. I don't think they have a concept that they're out of the pen. I don't think they have a concept that they're out of the pasture. But they just keep eating and walking and wandering and before long, they're maybe a half a mile away. That's what I think about when I think about drifting. Slowly. Maybe even not even realizing it. And then I really had a wild thought. I really had a wild thought from the book of James. And I found myself thinking, could it be that James, all the way through this book, has been talking to Christians about drifting? Could it be that the heart of all this is about Christians wandering slowly without even realizing it from the truth? And I found myself thinking, when I drift a little ways and a little farther, maybe then I encounter troubles and trials like we all encounter and like we've encountered throughout 2019. Maybe I encounter those and maybe I do whine and stomp and fuss and whatever. And maybe if I'm drifting, maybe I do still come and I still hear, but I don't apply it like I used to. And maybe I do see people who have need over here and over there, but I just don't stop and do anything when I'm drifting. And my tongue don't even realize when I'm saying some of those things. It's an interesting story. I tell it in the good light it's supposed to be told. But Susan was with Charles and Zonell a week or so ago. And Charles made a statement to Zonell and to Suze. A couple of days later, he got a hold of Suze and said, I need to apologize to you. What I said, it was slander. It was wrong. Now, that's something coming from a lawyer. But he was doing the right thing. He was doing this intentional Christian living thing. He was handling it exactly correctly as it should have been handled correctly. But when you're drifting, I can slander and I can do this and I can say this with my tongue and maybe I don't even realize it. And as I'm drifting, selfishness is creeping in more and more and more. And sin even creeps in some. Sin even creeps in some. I know it's a different kind of thought. But James closes his book so abruptly, and he just says, if someone is wandering away from the truth, then if some of you will bring that person back, you will save him from death and cover over many of his sins. Now, you want to talk about a gift. I'm assuming that most everyone got some kind of gift in the last few days. And Ronnie's family's going to get a gift today, and they've been telling me back on the back they hope it's a lot of money. And I said, it's the place to go for a lot of money. Ronnie can do it. And maybe you've got a gift you really like. Maybe you've got something you really are proud of. May I tell you this morning, it would be hard to find a gift much greater than what James is talking about. If I'm drifting and I don't even realize it, and I'm moving a little farther, and I'm dabbling here, and I'm doing this, I don't even see it. And yet you, out of your love, you come along and you bring me back. James says, you know what you've done for me? Out of your love and out of your concern, out of your kindness and out of your compassion and out of your gentleness, you bring me back. I won't come otherwise. You know that? I may not listen to you otherwise. It's got to be out of love and kindness, graciousness. And you bring me back? He says, you may have saved my soul from death. And you've helped me cover up a bunch of sins. And all the way through, James has been trying to say to us, in my opinion at least, you ought to live intentionally. And I hope for the last 6 months in 2019, if you listen to the book of James, that you've ended the year. And even before that, we'd spent forever in the Gospel of Luke, and we finished that in the first 6 months. Now the last 6 months, James. I hope somehow you've been persuaded, moved a little bit to this authentic, real, original, maybe the better word is intentional, following of Jesus Christ. And I hope as you begin 2020, you're even more intent to live like that. So I thank you for being here this morning. Thank you for listening, for considering. We're going to close with a song. Out of tradition, we call it a song of invitation. Unless someone would want to respond, that we would help for any reason, any way. May God bless you this morning as we stand as we sing.